Hi folks, Dr. P. This is Math 20-2 Quadratic Equations, Topic 2, Example 1 to 4, starting on page 17 in your workbooks. So in Example 1, they're asking us to solve using zero product rule here. We have a situation in A where we're multiplying two binomials. So we would pull out the first binomial, x plus 6, and set it to 0. Solve it for x, which means we will have to subtract 6 from both sides. So x equals -6, so that's one of our roots. Then we pull out the second binomial, set it to 0, solve it for x by adding 2 to both sides. And our second root is +2. So we have two possible roots here. X is -6 and x is +2. I'm not going to do all of the questions. I have done A. I'm going to do D as well. In this situation here, we have a binomial that's being squared. This is the same thing as 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1 equals to 0. And the zero product rule means or says that if either one of these is 0, then the left-hand side will equal to 0. We pull out 2x plus 1, we're equaling it to 0. Then we solve it for x, so we subtract 1 from both sides. We're going to get 2x equals -1. And then we divide by 2. X equals -½ In this particular case, there's only one single root because the second binomial here is the same as the first one, so you will have the same answer. So x equals -½ In example 2, we're asked to factor the following trinomials. And they want us to, so we're actually not factoring here, we're just we're getting started with the product and the sum method here. In A here, they're asking us to find two integers that would multiply to 18. So their product is 18, but they add to 11. Okay, so we can try different combinations. So for example, 10 plus 1 equals 11. That's the sum, but 10 times 1 does not equal to 18. So the two numbers cannot be 10 and 1. We can do 9 plus 2, that equals 11. 9 times 2 equals 18. So that means that the two integers that they're looking for are 9 and 2. In B, now we're looking for a product of 12 and a sum of -7. So we want a negative sum, so that means that we can do something like -3 plus -4. This is the same thing as -3 minus 4, which is the same as -7. -3 times -4 equals +12. So when we're multiplying two negative numbers, the answer is going to be positive. So the two numbers we're looking for are -3 and -4. Let's see how we can use this when we're factoring a trinomial. In example 3a, they're asking us to factor and determine the roots to the following quadratic equation. So we're going to factor this by finding two numbers that when they're multiplied, their product is 18. And when the two numbers are added, their sum equals to 11. Okay, so 9 plus 2 equals to 11, and 9 times 2 equals to 18. So the two numbers are 9 and 2. So we can now take this trinomial and we can factor it into two binomials where we first put an x, That's our variable. And then we put in one of the numbers, positive 9. So plus 9 would be one of them. And the second binomial, we put in an x again. And the second number we had was positive 2, so plus 2. And all of this equals to 0. And now we can solve this using the zero product rule. We first look at this first binomial. When would x plus 9 equal to 0? Well, when x equals negative 9, so that's one of our roots. And we look at the second binomial here. When would x plus 2 equal to 0? When x equals negative 2. There are our two roots. I'm also going to do E here. Here we have another trinomial. Again, we're going to find two numbers whose product is 25. And if they're added, their sum is 10, the middle number here. So 5 plus 5 is 10, while 5 times 5 is 25. So the two numbers are 5 and 5. They're the same numbers. So we can factor this as x plus 5, and x plus 5 equals to 0. And of course, this can also be written as x plus 5 squared. Okay, and when will this equal to 0? Well, if we pull out this binomial, x plus 5 equals to 0 when x equals to negative 5. And there's only going to be a single root here. Let's have a look at 4a. Here they're asking us to first factor the trinomial and then solve each of the following using each of the following quadratic equations. So if we take a look at this trinomial here, we notice that there is a greatest common factor. We can factor out a 2. If I factor out a 2, I am left with x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals to 0. And now I'm left with a trinomial where I can use the sum and the product method that we just used in the previous example. Whenever you use that method, so the method where you're looking, in this case, we're looking for two numbers whose product is going to be, in this case, negative 15, and whose sum would be positive 2. Whenever you're using this method, you need to make sure that the number in front of the numerical coefficient in front of the x squared term right here is 1. If there is no number in front of the x squared term, it means it's 1. Okay, so in the original expression here, the number in front of the x squared term is 2. So we cannot apply the sum and the product method here. And the way around this in this particular case is to factor out a 2 first. And now we're left with a trinomial where the coefficient for the x squared term is 1. So we can go ahead and use the product and the sum method here. So we're looking for two numbers that would add to 2 but multiply to negative 15. Whenever the product is a negative number, that is a hint that one of the two numbers needs to be negative, but not both of them. Right? Because if you multiply two negative numbers, the answer is going to be positive, and here the product is negative. So only one of them would be negative. So we can, for example, try negative 3 times 5. That's negative 15. And then we have to add those two numbers. So negative 3 plus 5, that is positive 2. So the two numbers are negative 3 and 5. So this 2 out here just carries. I put in my 2 brackets, and it's going to be x minus 3 and x plus 5. We have factored our quadratic equation. Now we see that this whole expression will be 0 either if x equals to positive 3, because 3 minus 3 is 0, or when x equals to negative 5. So these are our two roots, x equals 3 or x equals negative 5. And I think that was it. Yep, that's it. Make sure that you check out the keyed workbook on Google Classroom for the answers and the solutions and how to work them out for the rest of these examples. If you have any questions, make sure you connect with us through Google Meet. We have a Google Meet every day for this class. It's all posted on Google Classroom, or you can also post your question using the Google question form, also posted in Google Classroom. So that's a wrap. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the math be with you. See ya, folks.